Goswami on the debate at 10. Presented by Berger Easy Clean. Powered by Reva University, Quick Heal Secrite, Green Lamb Laminates, PolicyBazaar.com and Cucina. Co-powered by Mankind Pharma and New Nexon.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. From the days of Sharm el-Sheikh to the days of the Modi government, foreign policy making the SAARC redundant, from the days of allowing Azadi marches on the streets, supporting the Khalistani movement, to pushing back Canada at the UNGA stage, from saying that Pakistan is a victim of terrorism, to making Pakistan irrelevant and exposed for its role in masterminding terrorism, there has been a definitive switch as far as foreign policy is concerned. There has been a confidence with which we defend our own interest. And as the starkness between the policy of today and the UPA era glares us in the face as we get into 2024, the question will be asked on whether we can have a central government that has those who let down Indian interests for the sake of foreign compulsions, perhaps. The facts on the ground of who the opponents of India are have not changed. China was always China. It is our attitude to China which has changed. Canada's compulsions to Khalistanis were always what they were and continue to be. It is our attitude and the way we are responding to Canada which has changed. Pakistan was always a problem. It is how we are dealing with the problem which has changed. Exporters and supporters of terror, that's what the Pakistanis have been. But we are the one who have hyphenated ourselves from them. The question is, and this question becomes more apparent when you see the way in which Narendra Modi does the grand strategy and Foreign Minister Jaishankar does the nitty-gritty execution. The whole idea of who India has become under Narendra Modi, truly defending Indian interests, is becoming very apparent. Ladies and gentlemen, the bazaars in Srinagar of pelting have been shut down. The NIA is cracking down on the help groups of Khalistani terrorists, and the ED is swooping down on the terror cash floating through channels and Hawala networks. Has the Modi government ensured that every bit of the system works with a free hand to defend Indian interests? And if so, we ask, why not earlier? Why was this not done earlier? Let's debate.
Canadian security agencies have been actively pursuing credible allegations of a potential link between agents of the government of India.
India has smashed Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's claim on global platform. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar is leading the charge.
We told the Canadians. We told the Canadians that this is not the government of India's policy. Two, we told the Canadians saying that, look, if you have something specific, if you have something relevant, let us know. We are open to looking at it. So, but to understand the context of it, in a way, because the picture is not complete without the context in a way.
This takedown comes at a time when agencies are going all out against Khalistani elements. 53 locations across India have been raided in crackdown on Khalistani terror network. Action that Canada has failed to take despite actionable evidence provided by India.
You also have to appreciate, Ken, that in the last few years, Canada actually has seen a lot of organized crime, relating to, the secessionist forces, organized crime, violence, extremism. They're all very, very deeply mixed up. So, in fact, we have been, talking about specifics and information. We have actually been badgering the Canadians. We've given them a lot of information about organized crime leadership, which operates out of Canada. There are a large number of extradition requests. There are terrorist leaders who have been identified.
Now contrast this approach to the UPA era policy when just after 2008 Mumbai attacks, the then Prime Minister Manmohan Singh bowed down before Pakistani agenda in Sharm el-Sheikh. While in the Modi era there is an iron fist approach even with the West when it comes to national interest.
Our concern is that it's really been very permissive because of political reasons. So we have a situation where actually our diplomats are threatened, our consulates have been attacked, and often comments are made about there's interference in our politics, and a lot of this is often justified as saying, well, that's how democracies work. If somebody gives me something specific, it doesn't have to be restricted to Canada, but if there's any incident which is an issue, and somebody gives me something specific as a government, I would look at it. Of course I would look at it.
Modi government's foreign policy and approach is clear. It's nation first, no compromise. Let's debate.
And as I was watching that clip of Jaishankar, Foreign Minister Jaishankar, it appeared to me, and I'm sure it appeared to every reasonable observer, the logic, the reason, the level-headedness, and the extremely clear communication with which the Foreign Minister was putting forth his points. I mean, he was very, very clear on two facts. First, that Canada is a mess. And I think the wonderful way in which he reminded everyone at that Council of Foreign Relations interview that you are dealing with a country which is a woke mess. It's got a drug problem, it's got a fentanyl problem, it's a health crisis, it's a free-for-all, it's got a gangster culture, it's got multiple violent groups all operating. It's hardly the country to be asking others questions. And the second point, which he raised is, if you have any evidence, bring it to us and we'll talk about it. I think that was wonderful. So I want to start with Sushant Sareen first. Sushant, the question that everyone's beginning to ask more and more is, there is a fundamental difference in the way in which we are dealing with our national interests vis-a-vis the rest of the world. How would you put it? You watched it over the years, especially in the context of Canada.
Look, I think we're dealing with it in a very reasonable manner, if you ask me. We're not being pushovers. We're not getting bullied. Just because somebody has leveled an allegation without any basis, without any evidence, we are not saying, Ji Huzur, Ji Mai Baap Sarkar, aap Adesh de and we will do whatever you ask us to do. We are saying, okay, if you think that there is anything, why don't you show it to us? Over the last 8 days, nothing has come out so far. I think it's been more than 8 days now. It was last Monday out there, so it's almost 10 days.
About 10 days now.
If I'm not, yeah.
Yeah.
They have not shown any evidence. Constantly some of the Godi media in the West will come out with something and say that, this new information has come out. How does it add substantially to the allegation or the accusations that you have leveled? And does a leader of a G7 country, supposedly a serious country, level allegations in such a cavalier manner? And on what basis? Without any evidence? None whatsoever. They claim that we've spoken to the Indians about it. The Indians are saying you have not shared any evidence with us. And then, then you do this kind of grandstanding all over the world. So obviously there is a pushback coming, and there's a massive pushback coming. The pushback is coming from the government, and the pushback is coming from ordinary people in India who are saying that, look, there cannot be two principles for two different people. The principle has to be the same. If you talk about a rules-based order, then just because you were there in positions of power when those rules were being set, does not mean that you're free to flout those rules. So the same rule should be applying to you. Then you cannot say that I can go into any country, bomb the hell out of a country, kill millions of people, and that is not doing transnational repression. That's not the way it works. So one is the principle of,
Changing on the right.
this particular action. Secondly, we are saying that we have denied completely that we had anything to do with this incident.
Louder.
And we are saying that, okay, fine, if you think, if there is any reason that for you to believe, then please share with us the reason why you are doubting our bona fides, why you are leveling charges against us. You can just push us around. You've got another thought coming. And we'll push back, and we'll push back really hard. And we are not going to take this lying down. And I think that is a refreshing change from a time where, the general responses would be somewhat mealy-mouthed, not saying anything. Maybe with some countries we would take a somewhat stronger position. But look at the kind of language, for example, Arnab, we have started using with Pakistan. Some of the statements that have been issued on Pakistan, calling it the mothership of terrorism, for example, a number of other descriptions. A similar kind of stuff has been used against Canada. We've let it be known in no uncertain terms. In one of the advisories, for example, that there's political condoning of hate crimes by the Canadian authorities and of violent crimes by the Canadian authorities. And there is political condonation of that, right? That is one. The way the External Affairs spokesperson said the other day that, look, if any country must fear reputational damage, and in fact, that has actually started being spoken about many other countries, not just by India. The Bangladeshis have come out with their bag swinging. The Sri Lankans have said the same thing. There are other countries. The Poles have, of course, Trudeau has riled up the Poles also. They accuse us of fascism when they invite a goddamn Nazi, a person who was serving in the SS, in their parliament, and they applaud the guy. And then they feign ignorance that we didn't know what this guy is all about. Even today, no media house in Canada has asked on what basis was this man even invited. Did you not check his antecedents? Was he invited because he was a Ukrainian? Simply on that basis, or was there any other basis? Who knew this guy? Who gave his name? Nobody has asked any of these searching questions of the Canadian authorities. If you want to see compliant media, if you want to see embedded media, if you want to see sold out media, look at the Western media. How they parrot things without any question. And I think that is where, this pushback has come. That is where, because of this strong pushback, this issue has received a kind of salience around the world. Of course, I don't expect many Western media houses to take our word for it. And they will not. Why will they? We don't pay them anything, right? The guys who pay them they will sing their tune. And when has the Western media been objective? Let's talk about Iraq. All these people will say, but Iraq is a different case. It was a case of, like the editors of The Economist tell us, all intelligence is imperfect. Yes, all intelligence is imperfect, but whatever shoddy and flimsy intelligence you claim to have on India is perfect intelligence. Do you see the double standards out here? Right? So the editors of The Economist, who were in the forefront of calling for a war in Iraq, in which millions of people were killed, are now pontificating that, you cannot let India get away without consequences, without even a shred of evidence that they have produced. And they expect us to take it lying down. I'm afraid that's not going to happen anymore.
Mr. Serene, what is very, very important right now is that today's discussion is happening in a pre-general election year. In my first debate, I had Ambassador Kawal Sibul, I had Ambassador G. Parthasarathi debating with...
Let me just cut you short. Arnab, just a second.
No, but I do. Let me explain why. Let me explain why. Allow me to intervene.
Let me just say one thing. I don't give a damn about the election. Elections will be fought by politicians. It will be fought on a variety of issues. This, for me, is a matter of India's pride, India's security, India's integrity, India's reputation. For me, this is that issue. I don't give a damn about the politics of it. And I'm very glad that, most responsible politicians across the political spectrum have taken exactly the position they should have taken on what is a national issue. So I won't get into the politics of it.
I respect your view.
I leave to you, but
I respect your view, Sushant. But the reason, I respect your view for that. But as a political journalist, I would say this, Sushant, that I do give a damn for the simple reason that I believe that Indian foreign policy has changed dramatically since 2014 and more directly since about 2015, 2016. And the last 7 to 8 years particularly have seen a sharp turn where we put national interest first. And the reason I give a damn is not out of any fundamental ideological difference from you, Sushant, but I think every country needs to be clear, clarity. When I hear Jaishankar, when I hear our Prime Minister, I hear complete clarity. I see a proud nation defending itself. My concern is, and I often think, I'll come to Tohin in a bit. I often think what would happen, Saurabh, suppose a combination government of Mamta, Lalu, Kharge, AAP, Nitish, DMK, Farooq Abdullah and Mehbooba Mufti were to be in the central government. Would we have that clarity? I'm clear, if you don't have clarity, we are going to go back. And that's why it's very important for Indians to choose what kind of government they think they should have. It's not only internal policy, I think foreign policy is a clear result of the level of clarity that you have in a country's leadership. Saurabh.
Arnab, domestic policy and foreign policy are intertwined. I'm here speaking to you from the US, and I can tell you one thing, that the clarity of India's foreign policy is today being respected. India is setting a new international rule-based order at its own terms. And that was the clear message coming out of External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi has etched out a doctrine of sorts which believes that India is self-confident, it can take on anybody on a rule-based order that it will etch. It no longer will kowtow to anybody who tries to bully the country. That's manifested in the way they've handled China. That's manifested the way they have handled Canada. I can tell you there is a realization, growing realization here, even amongst countries of the West, that this is a new India. This will take up and make sure that we'll find challenges that the world faces. And when it comes to issues like terrorism, it will not bow down. That's a message. That's the reason why you see these bold statements coming out. And I can tell you that I've been following foreign policy for a long time. This wasn't the case when UPA was in power. I was a strident critic when Sharm el-Sheikh happened. It was a shameful moment for the country. And clearly, now is the time that the world has realized that this is a new India which is taking on the world when it comes to co-opting the world. It will. When it comes to take on its allies, its adversaries, it will go on and do that. The other thing I want to point out here is that when it comes to global issues, be it of climate change, be it of terrorism, be it of cyber security, India has its own Indian narrative that is being pushed on. That was manifested in the G20 summit. The success of Delhi Declaration was manifested in the fact that today the world is accepting what India stands for. And that's the reason why you see the reaction coming out of the US. The External Affairs Minister is coming to Washington, D.C. He has talks with US Secretary of State Tony Blinken. But clearly the message coming out of Washington is that we will obviously talk about this issue, but this is an issue which India has to settle with Canada. Because India has asked Canada to provide the evidence. It has not been able to do that and India will act on its national interests. When it comes to people who threaten India's sovereignty, they pose threat to India's national security, so India will deal with them on its own terms. That's a message coming out of Narendra Modi government, and that is being accepted by the world today.
I think so. Question being today, hypothetical situation but very real. I believe our internal policy and foreign policy are linked. Sometimes we need to use force in order to maintain peace within the country, and we need to explain to the world why we are doing it. We don't need to, but if they ask, we need to do so confidently. For example, we need to crack down on Maoist terrorism. And if anybody asks us, we should be able to, with clarity, tell them this is why we are doing it, this is how we intend to do it. Today, what the NIA has done, Abhishek, Manaswi, to all of you, attaching homes, land, weapons, bank accounts, digital devices, documents, issuing red corner notices. It's a tsunami of action. Now, let's assume if Mallikarjun Kharge was Prime Minister of India, if Mallikarjun Kharge was Prime Minister of India of a 32-member Khichdi Sarkar, how would he have dealt with it? Can any of you tell me? How would he have dealt with it? That's why I say 2024, elect the government which you believe can defend national interest.
Arnab, he would have dealt with it.
Which one of you would like to take that?
You know, he would have dealt with it the way...
Tuhin is answering on your behalf, otherwise, yes, Tuhin, what do you think?
Without uttering anything.
Arnab,
no, he would have maintained silence much the same way that Rahul Gandhi is maintaining. But let me come to the larger point over here. Arnab, this is truly, I'm glad you're having this discussion. This is truly a golden era in the history of India's foreign policy, and to really decode and comprehend what you see now, you will really have to go back to 2007, 2008, where every time we had a bomb blast and we had too many of them, India, the first reaction of India would be to complain to Big Daddy America. Today, America reaches out to India for most of its needs. So that is the difference that you see in the last 15 years. The present foreign policy of India is based on 5 core tenets, and we need to really understand each of them in detail. The first is India centricity, India first policy, which you saw throughout the Russia-Ukraine war, where, while the Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister, was very candid in saying that this is not the era of war, India had a very nuanced stand. Without taking any sides, India worked out its own way through the crisis. Number 2, a zero tolerance towards terror havens. In the last 6 years, if Pakistan stands globally ostracized, if even within the Organization of Islamic Countries, nobody takes Pakistan seriously,
now, please,
India, let me complete this, I've only mentioned the second point. So India has a big role to reducing Pakistan to where it is. Number 3, we have democratized global organizations like BRICS. Please don't blabber in between. Allow me to complete. I don't speak in between other people.
No, but
not right now. Number 3, we have democratized organizations like BRICS and G20 by including, countries which had never thought they would be included. Number 4, combating expansionist forces. India has a big role. India was instrumental in the creation of Quad. And number 5, the optimization of prosperity. Today, Saudi Arabia being one of our most strategic partners, and the India-Middle East Europe corridor sets a new paradigm for India's foreign policy. So I think it's a very nuanced policy. A lot of groundwork has gone into it. A lot of strategy has gone into it.
I ask you,
which folks will not be able to follow.
So, Tuhin, I think you're making the other side very restless. One minute. Yes, but I come back to the point here.
I don't know why.
I'm giving you enough time. I will give you enough time. I will give you enough time.
India centricity makes them so restless.
I will give you enough time. But I repeat today, Tuhin, I repeat today, I think the Narendra Modi government has the toughest approach to foreign policy that any government of India till date has had. We have verbally and diplomatically thrashed Canada and put them into a corner, and I am loving it. My question would be,
Can I come in? Yeah, can I come in?
And you know something, Manaswi, how hurt we felt at the way in which the Congress was so much in love with Pakistan. It was so unnecessary. It was such a compromise.
Yeah.
Infatuated.
And it compromised our national interest. Now we are concerned.
Arnab, you'll give me the time
we
you
want
gave to
continuity in our foreign policy, but can a Khichdi Sarkar do that?
Give to Tuhin.
Yeah, please. Manaswi and then Abhishek. Yeah,
Arnab, please give me the time you gave to Tuhin. Yeah, Arnab, it's a very, you are saying Congress had love for Pakistan. That could be true from your sense of idea, but there's the same Congress.
India's interest, he will give you more time.
No, Manaswi, please give me the time you gave to Tuhin. Yeah, Arnab, it's a very, you are saying Congress had love for Pakistan. That could be true from your sense of idea, but there's the same Congress Yeah, so Tuhin, let's not talk about don't give any certificates to anyone because everyone is as Indian as you are or anyone else. So now the question comes, the same Congress party in 1971 divided Pakistan into two parts. Tuhin, why are you interfering? I didn't interfere when you were speaking. So this is the same Congress party which divided Pakistan into two parts. That was the part of their foreign policy. In 1947, Tuhin, this is unfair. Arnab, I didn't speak when he was speaking. This is completely unfair. Tuhin, this is the same Congress party when a nation was born in 1947, started non-alignment movement. And it's a collective effort of all the prime ministers. We cannot say the Indian foreign policy started after 2014. It's a collective effort of even Atal Bihari Vajpayee. He may be from the opposition of Congress then. It's a collective effort of all the 13 prime ministers which we had in the country. We had nuclear civil deals with USA. We divided Pakistan into two parts. Which other country could do this kind of
let's not be childish about it. What do you mean collective effort?
That was done.
What collective effort?
What collective effort? We cannot.
This is not what we are talking about.
You want to deny the foreign policy ideas of all the 13 prime ministers? No, we can't do that. We have to respect all the prime ministers of this country.
Not taking on China was a shameful day for India.
What is the problem for the BJP in respecting the 13 prime ministers previously from Narendra Modi ji?
Nobody, Manasvi, I have respect for you.
In respecting the 13 previous prime ministers?
This is not what we are talking about. We are talking about a new and a stranded India and a foreign policy which takes on the world on its own terms. That wasn't the case earlier. The foreign policy with a spine, which wasn't the case when it came to China. This is what we are talking about. We are talking about a new India and a foreign policy that works.
We divided Pakistan into two parts.
This is what we are talking about.
So that's also part of the foreign policy.
Manasvi, can I get Abhishek and then Gyanendra also into the debate?
What's the problem?
No, I am asking one point tonight, and I'm asking you the question, viewers. See, you may not agree with the BJP on many things, but at the end of the day, when you vote in a national election in 2024, will you choose the party that defends your country better? And is that going to be a factor or not? I believe it will be. I think there wouldn't be anyone among you, even those who are supporting the opposition, who would say no, it wouldn't be. And I don't believe anybody, Abhishek, wants to go back to the terrible years when we formally aligned with the enemy country of Pakistan. We don't want to go back there. We want continuity. Now, question is the I.N.D.I.A alliance in any position to ensure continuity if it were to come to power, which is absolutely unlikely as of now?
I don't think that alliance is in any sort of position. They have absolutely no clarity. They can't even agree on secularism. Look, I question the government, but that doesn't mean I support this Khichdi alliance. What I will say, Mr. Goswami, I think the thrust of this debate seems to be, you are saying that India's foreign policy today is more muscular than it has ever been. My question is it muscular enough? If in fact we have played a role in the killing of Nijjar, so what? I say I welcome it. I welcome it as an Indian citizen. Get Dawood next. How long are we going to be sitting ducks? You plead with the Canadians, protect our consulates, protect our Hindu Indians who are in Canada from the Khalistani elements, right? Nothing happens. Rules-based order. Does the United States or Israel follow a rules-based order? The Western world has always exercised the right of hot pursuit. Barack Obama has eliminated US citizens on foreign soil. So why can't India? If the global South truly is to head the new world order, we have to come out and say, so what? If you're a terrorist and you threaten India and you threaten Indians in India or anywhere in the world, we will get you, we'll come to your rat hole and we will kill you where you are. Right? So what if India has done it? And if India has not done it, well, kudos to Mr. Jaishankar. But he did say today, or rather yesterday in New York, he says that no, it's not the Indian government's policy to eliminate terrorists who threaten Indian interests. So if that is not our policy, that has never been our policy, the policy, I guess, has not changed. Has the policy changed? When are we going to get Dawood Ibrahim? Prime Minister Narendra Modi in April 2014, 1 month before he became Prime Minister, criticized the statement by Sushil Kumar Shinde, saying that we cannot keep talking to terrorists. We can't have back-channel negotiations on Dawood Ibrahim coming back to India. Go kill Dawood Ibrahim in Pakistan. Do what the Americans did to Osama bin Laden in Pakistan. Do that, I say, and then I will vote for the Modi government myself. Right now, it's nota. That's it. That's all I have to say.
No. So you don't believe in diplomacy at all. It all sounds very good, Sushant. It's this nice 007 approach.
No, but the Americans have done it.
But even
if the
007
white man can do it, why can't we?
I want
if they
Sushant
can kill
to come in on
Osama bin
No,
Laden,
I'm sure you're going to get a few claps on social media.
Laden, why can't
I'm sure you're going to get a few claps on social media for that. No, but you wouldn't say that if you were Foreign Minister of India. Sushant, and then Tuhin.
You wouldn't. I'm not saying you should say it. I'm saying,
okay, let Tuhin go
first. A policy is not to eliminate terrorists.
Let Tuhin go first and
don't
Sushant
say it's
next.
not your policy because that's
so what he's saying is, I get the point. Abhishek. What you're saying is good. We are being tough. We're not tough enough. Tuhin wants to respond first to you. Tuhin.
Yes.
Arnab, you have been asking how would Kharge have reacted had he been the Prime Minister. I think the gentleman has answered. They don't understand anything about the foreign policy. If you hear, and Jaishankar ji's speech yesterday and his comments on Canada will be a case study for many other countries. Look at the nuancing. He's very clear in calling out Canada's permissive behavior when it comes to underworld gangs. No, please calm down. Did I
jousting gets you nowhere.
He's very clear when he talks about Canada's permissive culture, Canada's history of underworld crime, organized crime, along with terrorist leaders. But at the same time, he's very clear about India's policy. So I think, this is what diplomacy is. Unlike in the past, where we were excessively mild, we are very assertive, and yet we are very nuanced. We are clear that India's interests will be protected at all costs. We need not specify how those interests will be protected.
So have you killed Nijjar? Have you killed Nijjar? Simple question. I applaud you.
That is what diplomacy is about.
Sushant can take that.
Only an ignorant person can go about the world claiming something like this.
Arnab, so I think the sentiments
if you've done it,
expressed by Abhishek,
admit it, I'll applaud you.
No, if Abhishek lets somebody else talk, then somebody can talk. Otherwise, he can keep talking. I'll keep quiet. When he's finished, I'll start talking.
Go ahead. So
I completely, the sentiments that Abhishek has expressed, I'm all in with him. I believe that I'm 100% with him. But there are certain exigencies of diplomacy. Okay. There are many things which are come under the rubric of plausible deniability, number one. Number two, for example, everybody in the world knows that the Israelis carry out these kind of operations. Have the Israelis ever declared that they've carried out these operations? Not even once. Officially, never. Yeah, in their media, somebody might write, somebody might print a story, but the Israelis have never admitted officially that they've done anything. They've always denied it. You can keep imagining the impact that has is, in fact, in many ways double of what the impact is when you admit something. Number one. Number two, I think the hunt is on as far as Dawood is concerned. I can assure you of that. The hunt is very much on. And one fine day, we'll hear certain news also on that. I'm pretty hopeful that will happen probably sooner rather than later. And which is why a lot of these guys have literally slunk, into certain rack holes from which they had come out. So that is also happening. But there are many countries in the world which carry out certain things. They might not actually subscribe to that policy completely, simply because, it is, in a manner of speaking, it's an extrajudicial killing, right? But states do this. States never admit it. States always operate under the rubric of plausible deniability. If anybody has evidence, produce it. If that evidence is prosecutable, you would have already arrested people and started prosecuting them. You have nothing. What they are trying to do is that they suspect something on us and they expect us to implicate ourselves. And we have shown them the middle finger. It's as simple as that.
Well,
true, absolutely. But going back to the fundamental issue, Gyanendra wanted to respond there. So. And I would like to invite Mr. Gyanendra and Revolutionary Reddy. I remain on the most simple point out here of Bharat first. Gyanendra and then Mr. Reddy. I think we need to understand that earlier governments, Congress governments, were aligned and close to Pakistan. Our country is representing only Indian, Bharatiya national interest. And Gyanendra and Mr. Reddy, you know how the Congress compromised.
Can I just say
this is not why the people voted.
Can I just say one sentence before Mr. Gyanendra comes in? Just a sentence. Just to add to something what Tuhin had said about 2008, after the 26/11 attacks, and yes, the Congress government did take very, very strong steps, but that was a different Congress party when those strong steps were taken. In 2008, after the 26/11 attacks, the then Prime Minister apparently sought permission from visiting American congressmen and senators to convey to Pakistan that, look, I want to attack you. Can I attack you? And if I attack you, please don't retaliate. And I'm not making this up.
No, but it's...
This is written down.
I know you're not. I know you're not. No, I know you're not. I know you're not. But he did worse. He went to Sharm el-Sheikh and he said that the Pakistanis are doing such a great job of fighting terrorism. We didn't know where to look. Gyanendra, people have not forgotten that. And don't think that in 2024, people will go to the election saying, "Wohi wapas le aiye, wo pro-Pakistan position. We want to be pro-Pakistan again." I don't think in 9 years or 10 years, people have forgotten what the Congress did. You remember Sharm el-Sheikh or not? When in the do you remember the Sharm el-Sheikh joint statement? Would you like to tell any young Indian casting their vote for the first time how? No, I think the young people of India should know how the Congress party went and told the Pakistanis, you're such a great country, you've done so much great work, you are victims of terrorism, both of us need to work together, we need to have great relationship with each other, we really love the way in which you're fighting terrorism. This is after 26/11. I think youngsters in India need to know.
Yes.
Gyanendra and then Revolutionary Reddy. Gyanendra.
Yes. Of course, the youngsters in India need to know that it is the Congress government which has basically bifurcated the Pakistan and created an independent country out of it. And the young Indian voter also need to know that it is
bifurcated Pakistan
during which the China has intruded hundreds of kilometers into the Indian territory, and the Prime Minister with a 56-inch chhati seems to be doing nothing, or rather even not acknowledging the fact that the China has intruded into the Indian territory.
Everything you're saying is Chinese propaganda.
Which has been,
everything you're saying is Chinese propaganda. There is, name a single Indian source. Name a single Indian source. Name a single Indian official source. Name a single Indian official source to back up your claim, Gyanendra. Name a single Indian. No. Saurabh, I think we have to labor the point. Name a single Indian official source to back up your point. Name a single Indian official source to back up your point.
Anybody sitting here is going to deny that there is an intrusion, and it is the voices within the government which has
allow me to come in.
Which voices from within the government, Gyanendra? Which voices from within the government, Gyanendra? No, Gyanendra, I'm challenging you. Which voices from within the government? You're making it up. You're making it up. It's a falsehood. Which voices from within the government are saying that the Chinese have intruded? Which voices from within the government are saying the Chinese have intruded and taken over our land? Which voices from within the government, Gyanendra? Don't avoid the question. I know you can hear me.
Now US is, striking you, nuzzing at your knee that please cooperate with the investigation, what the Canadian authority is asking. So,
you know
what
they would have done earlier?
By
do you know?
the US,
Can I respond, please?
Can I respond?
Our the Vishwaguru and the India First has established such a friendly relationship with US. And my point is that the way we are reacting to this issue is highly immature.
Sir,
see, if the Canada is saying that we have been
you have a kindergarten view of foreign policy.
Obviously, we are denying it, but our response would have been much mature that if you share the credible evidence with it,
this is
in the investigation.
This is what you call a mature response. The way India
can I respond to him?
Can I come in? Arnab?
Extremism or terrorism.
Just allow me to speak for a minute.
Yeah, please. May I get Mr. Reddy in? And then Saurabh, I'll come to you. Can I get Mr. Reddy in and then I'll get you? Mr. Reddy has been waiting. It's 10:45. I need to go to him. Mr. Reddy. Mr. Reddy. Gyanendra, you're not taking a comma. Mr. Reddy.
Our response need to be much more mature. That if the evidence is there and the Canadian government shares the evidence with us, we will cooperate in the investigation because we are not a nation who sponsored killing. We are not a nation which,
but you have to give evidence. No, listen. I don't think you heard the... thank you, Gyanendra. Gyanendra, I'll have to cut you short there. Reduce your fader and get in Mr. Reddy. Mr. Reddy.
Please.
Arnab, we may have differences with the... we may have differences with the BJP as a political party, but we may have differences with the central government in various issues. But as a responsible political party, BRS believes in nation's interest come first, and we stand by the central government, especially when the issues of national security or national integrity, national sovereignty, and any other countries or foreign, institutions or countries' encroachment into our issues, our internal affairs, we are going to stand by the government. There is no dispute about it. Number two, but the issue is, as a responsible political party, we also have to, be responsible in asking the central government, are we doing enough in certain issues? I have only two questions to, pose here. One, why we could not convince this, Canadian government to convince that the Khalistani forces or, Nijjar, whichever, kind of forces it is, why we could not convince this Canadian government that they're anti-India. Why we have failed at the diplomatic level, number one. We also have seen in G20 how the issues were between Canada and India. Number two, fine. Now the Canadian issue, I already have told now. But if this discussion is all about to prove Modi is a superstar in foreign affairs, handling external affairs, and Tuhin was trying to showcase entire 9 years it was a success only in the foreign affairs, I differ with him. Let me ask you only two things. As LAC incursions, now you say, is there any official source? But I wanted to quote Mr. Subramanian Swamy, a 6 times MP, former minister, says very clearly, many a time...
Who holds no position within the government, is not active within the BJP, is not a member of parliament, is not a minister, or a former minister in this government. So I don't know who Mr. Subramanian Swamy represents.
Give me 20 seconds.
Can you tell me who Mr. Subramanian Swamy represents? Sometimes I fear he does not even represent himself.
He is a member of BJP, 6-time MP, former minister. His Twitter shows he's a PhD. So we have to give him due respect as a citizen of this country.
He says, are all PhDs in this country speaking for the Modi government?
Allow me to speak. Allow me to speak for 10 seconds, sir. He says...
No, you can't superimpose Subramanian Swamy's views on the government.
I am not superimposing. I'm just trying to, make the comments open.
You can say Subramanian Swamy is an aspiring minister. He's always been an aspiring minister. He's an aspirant. But there are many aspirants.
You can't just...
Maybe even you are an aspirant.
Escape from the responsibility. Of course, yes. We are all in politics, number two. Number two, finally, I want to tell you, just 2 days
Subramanian Swamy makes me laugh.
2 days before, the Chinese government denied visas to 3 Wushu players from Arunachal Pradesh. And
so what did India do? What did India do? India
I think nothing was done.
Stopped its sports minister
nothing was done.
Do you know
why this situation has gone to that level?
Summit?
You are reacting. You are doing postmortem.
Xi Jinping did not.
I'm only questioning if you wanted to, if you tried to prove Modi is a superstar in foreign affairs. I want to make this point.
Okay, let Tuhin respond.
Can I respond, please?
We let Tuhin respond, Saurabh, to that. Yeah, Tuhin.
Because he has repeated. Yeah, let me first respond to Gyanendra because he has repeated the lie that Indian territory has been intruded. You know, all I can say is at least, you know, if you have trust in the army, repeated statements have come from topmost officials of the army that nothing that you claim is true on the ground. I think you should trust the army. Now, number two, if you realize what we've done in Canada, we have taken a preemptive step which will benefit the world largely. If you are saying why we did not succeed diplomatically, please understand that for the last 4 decades, you know, successive Indian governments have struggled to convince the Canadians, and that this goes back to 1982. At least finally we have taken a step which is preemptive in nature and which is going to save the world from the implications of this growing terror heaven which was going completely unnoticed by most countries in the world. And I think in due course of time the world will be grateful for the stand which we have taken.
Gyanendra is responding back. Gyanendra and Abhishek.
On that part we all agree that we as a nation need to send a very clear message to Canada that we will not tolerate any
I lost your video there. You're going to have to fix your video, Gyanendra.
But, sorry. Okay, sorry. Yeah. So, I think my camera was off. So, okay. Let me just put on this. I believe. But while can you hear me at least? While I try to put my camera on?
Yeah, I can, yeah.
So what I was telling it that we all are one as a nation and in a single voice, we are with the government in conveying our unequivocal stand that we will not tolerate extremism or terrorism in the foreign country.
No, but there has not been, I'm sorry, I'll have to get your video. My point is, have Indians not noticed Abhishek? Have Indians not noticed Abhishek and Manaswi? 10 days the government of India is fighting the Canadian lies. 10 days. The opposition alliance has maintained a stony silence. If you are with the government on national security policy, then say we are.
No, but we are on that.
Especially
but
say we are.
The
government is fighting terrorism.
We are there. But when Tuhin says, Arnab, my question, I have a very pointed question. When Tuhin says since 1982 we have failed, he is also implying that Atal Bihari Vajpayee would have also failed. No, that is not the case. It is the collective efforts. Why don't he want to agree that India was not built after 2014 on national security? Everyone is together. All our prime ministers and foreign ministers have done their best in their best possible ways. Why does he want to create a narrative wherein all the prime ministers of this country have failed and only one foreign minister? Was Sushma Swaraj ji a bad foreign minister? No, she was an excellent foreign minister. Why is he trying to create this narrative?
I want us to remember.
Did not exist so much when Vajpayee ji was in government. So don't bring in those 6 years of Vajpayee government.
You have to agree that it is
even this problem of Canada has
I wish to make one point. I wish to make one point. Viewers, I think this is we are in September 2023.
Maybe from your party, some other party.
One last point before I wrap.
For this country.
Yeah, today is the 27th of September 2023. I want you to know this, that on 29th of September 2013, which is exactly about 10 years back, around this time, there had been a terrible attack on a military base. We will never forget the attack on our military base in Jammu and Kashmir, a terrorist attack by Pakistan. Within 3 days of that, Manmohan Singh went, shook hands and hugged Nawaz Sharif on the sidelines of the UNGA. I don't think people of this country forget.
Shame.
And I don't think they want to go back there. Food for thought, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you tomorrow at 9. Good night and goodbye.
In the India Today Best Universities 2023 survey, released recently, India's #1 ranked universities in various streams are JNU Delhi, Amity University, AIIMS Delhi, IIT Delhi, and National